There's a specific type of person who lies and gets caught immediately. Not in an hour, not after an investigation. Immediately, while the words are still hanging in the air, while their face is still trying to arrange itself into something convincing, while you're watching them construct a reality in real time that neither of you believes. You can see it happening. The microexpression that contradicts the words, the pause that's half a second too long, the details that are too specific or not specific enough, the eye contact that's too intense or too absent. And here's what makes it fascinating. They can see that you can see. You watch the recognition flash across their face. The split-second calculation, do I double down or do I retreat? And almost always, they double down. More details, more conviction, more performance. Digging themselves deeper into a hole both of you can see, but only one of you will acknowledge. And you're left with a strange kind of second-hand embarrassment mixed with something darker, because you're watching someone choose fiction over reality in real time, and they're betting everything that you'll pretend not to notice. But you notice. You always notice. And they know you notice. And still, they continue. We need to understand what a lie actually is before we can understand people who are terrible at it. A lie isn't just false information. It's a performance, a calculated attempt to construct a reality that serves the liar's interests. Good liars are actors. They believe their own fiction just enough to sell it. They control their micro-expressions. They keep their stories simple. They know that the best lies are the ones closest to the truth. But the people we're talking about? They're not actors. They're improvisers who forgot to listen to their scene partner. They lie with their mouth while their entire body screams the truth. Their voice goes up half an octave. Their hands do something weird. They touch their face, their neck, their ear. They suddenly become very still or very animated. They give you too much eye contact. Like they learned somewhere that liars look away, so they're going to stare you down until you believe them. But it doesn't work, because humans are incredible lie detectors. Not because we're logical, but because we're intuitive. We might not be able to articulate exactly what's wrong, but we feel it. In our gut, in the slight dissonance between what's being said and what's being communicated. And when someone is bad at lying, that dissonance is deafening. You can hear it in the room. You can feel it in your chest. And the question becomes, why do they keep doing it when they're so obviously bad at it? Here's the paradox. People who are instantly exposed when they lie usually know they're bad at it. This isn't their first time getting caught. They've been caught before. Many times. By parents, teachers, partners, friends, employers. They know they have tells. They know their voice changes. They know people don't believe them. And yet, they keep lying. Not because they think they'll get away with it, but because in the moment, lying feels safer than the truth. Even if the lie is transparent. Even if it makes things worse. Because here's what we miss. For chronic liars who are bad at it, lying isn't about deception. It's about delay. Delay of consequence. Delay of judgment. Delay of the shame or punishment or disappointment that the truth would bring. The lie buys them 30 seconds, maybe a minute, maybe just long enough to leave the room. And in their nervous system, that feels like survival. They're not trying to convince you. They're trying to survive the next 60 seconds without facing reality. And the lie, however transparent, is the tool they reach for. Let's talk about the psychology of instant exposure. There's a concept called cognitive load. When you're telling the truth, your brain is just retrieving memory. Easy, low effort. But when you're lying, your brain is doing multiple things at once. Constructing the false narrative, monitoring your own behavior, reading the other person's reaction, suppressing the truth, remembering the details of your lie so you can keep it consistent. That's a lot of processing power. And for people who aren't naturally skilled liars, that cognitive load shows up in their behavior. They blink more or less. Their pupils dilate. They swallow at weird times. Their breathing changes. These aren't things they can control. These are autonomic responses to the stress of deception. And if you're paying attention, you see all of it. There's also something called duping delight. Some liars, even bad ones, get a little thrill from the attempt to deceive, a micro-expression of pleasure that flashes across their face before they can control it. It's brief, a fraction of a second, but it's there. And it betrays them. Then there's the opposite, lie guilt. Some people feel so terrible about lying that their face shows shame before they've even finished the sentence. They're betraying themselves in real time, and you're watching it happen. But here's the deeper layer. People who are instantly exposed when they lie often have a fundamental problem with reality itself. Not in a clinical sense, but in a practical one. They've learned, usually early in life, that reality is dangerous. That the truth leads to punishment, rejection, abandonment. So they learn to create alternative realities, versions of events where they're not at fault, where they didn't fail, where they're still lovable. And over time, the line between truth and fiction became blurry, not because they're sociopaths, but because they've been editing reality for so long they sometimes forget which version is real. Meet Kevin, 31, lies about small things constantly. Where he was, what he ate, whether he finished a task at work. Nothing major, nothing that really matters. But he lies anyway, and everyone knows. His girlfriend, his coworkers, his friends. They've stopped calling him out because what's the point? He'll just lie about lying. But they've also stopped trusting him. About anything. Kevin doesn't understand why people think he's unreliable. In his mind, the lies are protective. They keep him safe from judgment. What he doesn't see is that the lies are creating the exact judgment he's trying to avoid. People don't distrust him because of what he's hiding. They distrust him because he lies about things that don't even need to be hidden. And that makes them wonder, if he lies about lunch, what else is he lying about? Meet Monica, 27. Lies to make herself more interesting. She embellishes stories, adds details that didn't happen, claims experiences she saw on Instagram as her own. And people can tell, because her energy changes when she's lying. She becomes performative, too animated. Like she's trying to convince you and herself at the same time. Her friends smile and nod, but they've learned not to believe her stories. And Monica can feel it. The way people receive her tales with polite skepticism instead of genuine interest. But she can't stop. Because the truth, her actual life, feels too boring, too small, too insufficient. So she constructs a more interesting version and hopes that if she performs it convincingly enough, it'll become true. But it never does. Meet David, 43, lies to his wife about money, not about affairs or anything dramatic, about spending. He says he didn't buy something when he did, says something cost less than it did, hides purchases. And she knows. Every time. She can see it in his face, hear it in his voice. She checks the bank account later and confirms what she already knew. And every lie, however small, is a paper cut on the relationship. Not because of the money, but because he keeps choosing the lie over her intelligence. He keeps betting that she won't notice, or won't say anything, and she notices. Every time, and the trust erodes, not dramatically, gradually, until one day she realizes, I don't believe anything he says anymore, and he still doesn't understand why she's pulling away. Meet Jennifer, 34, lies at work about her progress on projects. It's almost done. I'm waiting on feedback from someone else. There was a technical issue. Her boss knows. Every time, because her patterns are obvious. The lies always come on Fridays, always involve external factors, always buy her just enough time to actually do the work she said was already done. He's tired of it. Not tired of her missing deadlines. Everyone misses deadlines. Tired of the performance, the elaborate excuses, the insult to his intelligence. He'd respect her more if she just said, "I'm behind. I need 2 more days." But she can't. Because in her mind, admitting that feels like admitting failure. So she lies, gets caught, and fails anyway. But with the added cost of looking dishonest instead of just human. Let's sit with what it actually feels like to be someone who gets instantly exposed. It's the shame spiral. You know you're bad at this. You know they can tell. You can see it on their face. And still, you're committed to the bit. You're in the middle of the lie and you can't figure out how to get out without making it worse. So you keep going. Adding details, doubling down, hoping that somehow, miraculously, they'll believe you. But they don't. And you know they don't. And now you're both in this weird theater where you're performing and they're pretending to believe you so the interaction can end. It's humiliating. And the worst part is, you did it to yourself. It's the isolation. Because people stop confiding in you when they can't trust you. They're polite, friendly, even, but there's a distance, a guardedness. They don't tell you real things anymore, because they assume you'll lie about real things too. And you can feel it, the way you're kept at arm's length. But you can't figure out how to fix it, because fixing it would require admitting you've been lying, and that feels impossible. It's the cognitive dissonance. Because in your head, you're not a liar. Liars are bad people. You're not bad. You're just protecting yourself, managing situations, keeping the peace. The fact that you're doing it dishonestly is somehow separate from your identity. So you keep lying while insisting to yourself that you're honest. And the dissonance makes you anxious in ways you can't name. It's the loneliness of not being known. Because if people only know the version of you that you've constructed through lies, they don't actually know you. And somewhere deep down, you're desperate to be known, but you're also terrified of it. Because being known means being seen, flaws and all. And you've spent so long constructing a flawless fiction that the truth feels like exposure. Like standing naked in front of people who expect you to be dressed. Let's go deeper into why people continue lying even when they're bad at it. It's often rooted in childhood. Maybe you grew up in a house where mistakes were punished harshly, where anything less than perfection was met with anger, disappointment, withdrawal of love. So you learned, the truth is dangerous. If I admit I broke the vase, I'll be screamed at. If I say I got a B instead of an A, I'll be shamed. So you lied. And sometimes, you got away with it. And even when you didn't, the punishment for lying was sometimes less severe than the punishment for the truth. So your brain learned, lying equals survival. And that wiring doesn't just disappear when you grow up. There's also shame-based lying. People who carry deep shame about who they are often lie to construct a more acceptable version. They lie about their accomplishments, their past, their feelings, their desires, not to manipulate, but to hide, because they believe that if people knew the truth, they'd be rejected. So they offer a fiction, a version of themselves that they think is more lovable. But fiction can't be loved. Only truth can. So they end up in the painful paradox of being accepted for someone they're not, which feels identical to not being accepted at all. Then there's compulsive lying. For some people, lying becomes so automatic they do it without thinking. It's not strategic, it's reflexive. Someone asks a question and their mouth produces a lie before their brain even considers the truth. Did you finish that? Yes. Lie. Where were you? Jim. Lie. Are you okay? I'm fine. Lie. It's like a verbal tick, a defense mechanism that fires without conscious input. And by the time they realize they've lied, they're already committed to it. Here's what happens to relationships when one person is constantly exposed lying. Trust doesn't break suddenly, it erodes. Each lie, even the small ones, is a grain of sand removed from the foundation. At first, the structure holds. You make excuses for them, give them the benefit of the doubt, but eventually, you're second-guessing everything. When they say they love you, you wonder if they mean it. When they say they'll change, you remember the last 10 times they said that. When they tell you anything, you're doing detective work in your head, checking their story against reality, looking for holes, and that's exhausting. So you start to disengage, emotionally protect yourself. And they feel the distance but don't connect it to their lying. In their mind, the lies are small, insignificant, not worth this kind of reaction. But it's not about the content of the lies, it's about the pattern. The pattern that says, I will choose my comfort over your reality every time. And eventually, you leave. Or you stay, but stop believing in the relationship. Either way, the connection dies, killed by 1,000 small lies that didn't seem important enough to tell the truth about. So, what do you do if you're someone who gets instantly exposed when you lie? First, you have to get honest about the pattern. Not just, I lied about this specific thing, but I have a pattern of lying and it's destroying my relationships. That's hard, because it requires seeing yourself as someone you don't want to be. But you can't change what you won't acknowledge. Second, you need to understand your triggers. What situations make you reach for a lie? When you've made a mistake? When you're afraid of disappointing someone? When the truth feels boring or insufficient? Map the pattern, because once you see it, you can interrupt it. Third, practice radical honesty, starting small. When someone asks how you are, and your instinct is to say, fine, try the truth. Honestly, kind of stressed. When you're late and your instinct is to invent traffic, try the truth. I'm late. I lost track of time. I'm sorry. It'll feel vulnerable. Scary, even. But watch what happens. Most people respond better to truth than to obvious lies. Fourth, work with the shame, because underneath the lying is usually shame. About who you are, about what you've done, about not being enough. And you can't lie your way out of shame. You can only feel your way through it. Therapy helps. Journaling helps. Talking to someone safe about the real you helps. Because the less shame you carry, the less you need to hide. Fifth, make amends. Not dramatic confessions of every lie you've ever told, but acknowledgement. I know I haven't been honest with you. I'm working on that. I'm sorry. You might not get forgiveness. That's not the point. The point is accountability. Stepping out of the pattern and owning it. And finally, be patient with yourself. You didn't become a liar overnight. You won't become honest overnight. You'll slip. You'll catch yourself mid-lie. You'll tell the truth and feel terrified. But each time you choose truth over fiction, you're rewiring your brain. You're teaching yourself the truth is survivable. And eventually, it becomes easier than lying. Here's what I need you to understand if you're on the other side of this. If you're the person watching someone lie badly and get caught repeatedly, you're not crazy. You're not paranoid. Your intuition is correct. When you feel like someone's lying, they probably are. And you don't have to pretend you don't notice just to make them comfortable. You can name it, calmly, directly. That doesn't sound true. What's actually going on? Sometimes they'll double down. Sometimes they'll get defensive. But sometimes, if you create enough safety, they'll crack, and the truth will come out. Messy and imperfect and real. And that's where actual connection can begin. But you also need to know, you can't fix this for them. You can't love them into honesty. You can't create enough safety that they stop lying. This is their work, their pattern, their choice. All you can do is decide what you're willing to tolerate. Some lies are deal breakers. Infidelity, financial deception, things that materially affect your life. Some lies are annoying but survivable. Embellishments, self-protective fibs. Only you know where your line is. But wherever it is, honor it. Because staying in relationship with a chronic liar while resenting them for lying helps no one. Either accept them as they are, lies included, or leave, but don't stay and suffer while hoping they'll change. Change is possible, but it has to come from them, and it usually only comes when the cost of lying finally exceeds the cost of truth. Here's the truth about people who lie and get instantly exposed. They're not monsters. They're not evil. They're just scared. Scared of judgment. Scared of rejection. Scared of being seen as they actually are and being found insufficient. So they perform. They construct. They lie, even though they're terrible at it. Even though they get caught. Because in the split second before the lie, it feels safer than the truth. And they haven't yet learned what some of us know. The truth might be scary, but lies are lonelier. Because you can't be loved for a fiction. You can be admired, envied, desired, but not loved. Love requires being known, and being known requires truth. So every lie, however small, however transparent, is a brick in a wall between you and connection. And eventually, the wall gets so high you can't see over it anymore. You're alone with your lies and the persona you've constructed, and no one knows you. Not really, because you won't let them. There's a moment that comes, if you're lucky, a moment where the exhaustion of performing finally exceeds the fear of being seen, where you're so tired of remembering which version of the story you told to which person that you just stop and you tell the truth. Simple, unadorned, vulnerable. I don't know. I messed up. I'm scared. I lied, and the world doesn't end. The person doesn't leave. Or maybe they do, but you're still standing, and you realize, the truth didn't kill me. The truth set me down. Let me stop performing, stop calculating, stop managing, and just be. Messy, imperfect, flawed, but real. And real, it turns out, is what people were waiting for all along. Not your polished fiction, not your carefully constructed lies. Just you, true, transparent, human. And if they can't love that, they were never going to love the performance either. So you might as well be free, because the most exhausting lie isn't the one you tell others. It's the one you tell yourself. That you're not enough as you are, but you are. You always were. You just needed to be brave enough to let someone see it. And the first person who needs tea